They're faster, they're modern, and they're, well, comfy. Welcome on board the brand new ComfortJet, the brand new high-speed train that's set to revolutionise international train travel out of the Czech Republic. We'll be getting on board this sleek new train to check out all of its new features, whether it actually lives up to its name, and of course, have a meal in one of Europe's best dining cars as we travel from the Czech capital Prague to the German capital Berlin. Now join me as the journey continues. Our trip this morning starts at Praha hlavní nádraží, or Prague's main station, which dates back to 1871. The entrance before us on the other side of the street was constructed between 1901 and 1909, and most people using the station don't even know it exists given it's no longer the main entrance. To access the main station concourse, however, we'll need to go down the lift just here. Prague's main station was renovated heavily in the 1970s and is well connected with the city's main bus, tram and metro networks. It also has plenty of amenities including restaurants and shops, but we won't be needing that given there's a dining car on board our train today. It's also worth checking out the scale Lego model of this station if you have time, a fitting tribute to the largest and busiest station in the Czech Republic, seeing over 71,000 passengers daily. Our train today is the 0828 EC176 Berliner departure to Berlin Hauptbahnhof, and as you can see we have quite a bit of time before we're due to leave. Not to worry though, as we're travelling in first class, so that grants access to the České Drahy or Czech Railways first class lounge. Though this is a little more than a place to grab a coffee, catch up on some work, or get some printing done, so I wouldn't linger here for too long. That being said, you can also buy souvenirs here, and there's even a mural depicting the main train types operated by České Drahy, except for one given it's brand new, but I'll come back to that shortly. In all honesty, your time is better spent checking out the old main station concourse just one level above as you head through the underground subway to the platforms. It really is an architectural marvel and really makes using this station all the more enjoyable. The main train shed here is also something to behold. Here you'll find plenty of national and international services by numerous operators, including open access operators Leo Express and RegioJet, though most are operated by České Drahy, who we'll be travelling with today. Our train is announced as leaving from platform 6 at the far end of the station. Around 15 minutes before scheduled departure, our train pulls in from the depot, consisting of a 200 km/h capable Siemens Vectron Locomotive and a set of 9 ComfortJet carriages consisting of 5 second class cars, a dining car, a multifunction car and 2 first class cars. This is České Drahy's newest flagship train, with 29 car sets under construction by a consortium of Siemens and Škoda, the former responsible for the main carriage construction and the latter for the interior fittings. The sets have a maximum speed of 230 km/h and are able to run in many countries, which I'll come back to as we get going. Part of the new Vectrain platform the domestic Interjet trains run on and an evolution of the existing Railjet design, these trains were first introduced in 2024, albeit starting in a temporary 8-car consist with an older České Drahy dining car and excluding the cab car as both were pending authorisation at the time, and as of September 2025, all but one of the Berlin to Prague Eurocity services are the full 9-car sets, replacing the older České Drahy carriage consists which have been cascaded to other routes in České Drahy's network. I should also mention that the new cab car resembles the Vectron Locomotive like ÖBB's Railjet and Nightjet sets, meaning yep, you guessed it, the cab cars are still not authorised for push-pull operation and are thus led by the locomotive in the direction of Prague. Hopefully they'll be authorised soon? Anyway, let's get on board. Like with the Railjets, the ComfortJet has a few steps between the train and the platform with no level boarding offered except in the multi-function car where there's a ramp. Welcome to first class, which is laid out in a 2x1 configuration with mostly airline seats, though a few table seats are present too. It looks like I'm the man in seat 61 today, as this is the seat I've reserved as shown by the electronic display. But not to worry, it's also in Braille too. Some seats, like seat 82 though here, are definitely to be avoided. Our route out of Prague will see us travel along the Elbe River until we exit the Czech Republic and cross the border into Germany, our main stops being Usti nad Labem, Decin, Bad Schandau and Dresden, before arriving into Berlin Hauptbahnhof at just past 1 PM. Our ComfortJet taking 4 hours and 34 minutes to cover a distance of 379 kilometers. We leave Praha hlavní nádraží 1 minute late as we commence the long journey towards the German capital.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board the Eurocity train 176 from Praha hlavní nádraží to Berlin Hauptbahnhof. You can find more detailed information concerning the train journey in the Můj vlak mobile application, or you can obtain it from the train crew staff. We wish you a pleasant journey. The next stop is Praha Holešovice. The scheduled arrival is at 8:37 a.m.
As we leave Prague, don't miss the view of the city below as we join the Nové spojení, or new connection, that links the city's two main stations to its main suburban ones of Labem, Vysočany and Holešovice, and their respective mainline corridors. Speaking of which, we arrive into the latter around 5 minutes of travel time later, coincidentally pulling in right next to the Golden Eagle Danube Express luxury sleeper train on one of its odysseys across Central and Eastern Europe, though at a €15,000 starting price to ride it, I think I'll stick with the classic way to travel around Europe by train. It's after leaving Holešovice where we start to get into the scenic highlights of this trip, as our train runs alongside the banks of the Elbe River towards the German border, and the weather couldn't be more perfect for it too. The attendant also handed out a complimentary bottle of still water, as included with my first class ticket. Very useful on a warm day like today. Anyway, let's now get into the features of the ComfortJet First Class. The seats used here are a similar design to those on most of Ceske Drahy's long-distance fleet. Whilst the backs are a bit stiff, the base and headrests are plush enough, especially with the soft cushion on top. The aisle side of the seat has a foldable armrest, and below this is the lever for operating the manual recline, which is pretty good for a first-class product. On that note, the legroom is decent except for one thing. The base of the seat has support bars in the way, which sadly spoil this. Let's not forget the footrest too. At the solo seats, there are foldable tray tables which have handy extensions that can easily hold a large laptop. The table seats also have foldable sections, which are handy for more space when they're not in use or for movement in and out, especially for those with reduced mobility. At the back of the airline seats are seat back pockets, and there are also personal bins at the seat base, which are cleverly based next to the window on the table seats. Now onto the power sockets, which I was actually pleasantly surprised with. These have standard 220V power sockets, as well as both USB-A and USB sockets too, and what's more, the Duo seats also have wireless chargers, though iPhones with large cameras like my iPhone 14 will have difficulties using this. I then tested it with my AirPods case and it worked perfectly fine, as indicated by the flashing blue light. And speaking of lights, there's a touch sensor operated reading light just below the overhead luggage racks, with coat hooks being found just next to the window and above the draw down window blinds, and as is typical with Siemens designs, they only reduce the glare and don't completely block out the view. Handy on this very sunny day. I'd say the interior is very well designed in many aspects, but rather poor in others. Notably the legroom on the airline seats and the wireless charging points not taking into account iPhone cameras, but overall still a lot more than what you would get with a lot of Czech Railways' other fleet. At this point, I should probably mention that the ComfortJets are meant to have fast and free Wi-Fi on board, but for some reason this wasn't working as shown by the passenger information screens, and it not appearing on my phone whatsoever, which is a bit of a shame. Before long, we arrive into Usti nad Labem hlavní nádraží, our first stop outside of Prague. This is the capital of the region of the same name and an important railway junction in the Czech Republic, evidenced by the fact that we were held here for a while to let another train pass through, picking up a 7-minute delay as a result. As we finally leave Usti nad Labem, I figured I'd get something to eat from the dining car. It's worth noting that, like with most European rail operators, you can order food to your seat in first class through the attendant, but remember the dining car is a new addition to the sets, and with a long journey like this, it's definitely worth checking out. The dining car is located just next to the second first class carriage, so thankfully we don't have to go too far. It's also pretty empty too. Both first and second class passengers can make use of this, and seating isn't reserved. It's also fairly easy to order thanks to the menus by the window and the hard-working attendant. The reason I decided to visit now is that whilst we're in the Czech Republic's borders, the bargain happy hour prices apply, which means you can enjoy great food for less. Ceske Drahy's dining cars are amongst the best in Europe, and this new design really gives them a more modern and premium feel. Oh, and there's also beer taps and portafilter coffee machines, if that's your sort of thing. I, however, ended up getting a bottle of still water and went for a caramel honey cake for dessert. I personally think this is one of the best items on the menu and worth trying at least once if you can. For my main, I got chicken schnitzel, which was absolutely delicious. Whilst I was eating, we pulled into Děčín hlavní nádraží, our last stop in Czechia before entering Germany. Here, we catch a glimpse of start-up European sleeper on its way to Prague from Brussels and Amsterdam, having just crossed the border into the Czech Republic, albeit running slightly late. That being said, we pick up a few extra minutes of delay leaving Děčín as we continue along the Elbe River, and before long, we approach and cross the border into Germany, which is roughly indicated by the housing area just here, as well as the large amount of infrastructure work being done. Not long after crossing the border, we arrive at the German border station of Bad Schandau, and despite both Germany and the Czech Republic being part of the European Schengen zone, border police will still board the train here to conduct spot checks on certain individuals, part of increased efforts by Germany to curb increased illegal immigration. At this point of the journey, we take one last ride along the Elbe River before reaching the suburbs of Dresden in eastern Germany, then arriving into Dresden Hauptbahnhof, the main station serving the capital of the German state of Saxony. It's actually my first time here, and I'm really amazed by this 1898 built station, which has been remarkably restored after being made inoperable during the air raid strikes in 1945. Having followed the Elbe up to this point, we now cross it and arrive into Dresden Neustadt, our last stop outside of Berlin, which, as the name suggests, serves the Neustadt or New City district of Dresden, and whilst not as impressive as Hauptbahnhof, is still a pleasant sight compared to the most non-main stations in Europe. We've seen first class and the dining car, but now let's check out the rest of the train. This is second class, laid out in a 2x2 configuration with airline and table seats, but with narrower and slightly less comfortable seats than you'll find in first. This is still a perfectly good option, with prices in advance starting at €19.99 for the Berlin to Prague route, so whilst the seats aren't the comfiest, it's perfectly acceptable for what you pay in most cases. Luggage storage is available through the overhead racks, with plenty of larger racks for bigger items, and even storage behind some of the seats, as I later found out. Towards the end of one second class car, you'll find an info point, where the train manager will normally sit here to provide information on the train, its features, and onward connections, for example. Is any Railjet derivative complete without one? Also in this carriage is a family area with a children's entertainment centre, though the movie screen wasn't working on this trip, with additional space for storing foldaway prams and buggies. In the multifunction car, you'll find a rather large wheelchair accessible area which is more generous than the older carriages these replaced, along with an accessible toilet. Again, this was spacious and immaculately clean despite now being well into hour 3 of our journey today. The same could be said about the standard toilet I checked out, this one being next to the driver's cab in the control car. There are numerous others throughout the vestibules of the 9-car ComfortJet consist. In the front second class carriage is where the bike storage is located, and as you can see it's pretty full at the moment. So much so we can't even see the power sockets for e-bikes, which is a nice feature. Reservations are compulsory and cost €11.48 on the Berlin to Prague route, but book early as it's very popular, as you can see. Something I should probably mention now that we're on the Berlin to Dresden railway is that our speed has and will not exceed 160 km per hour for the entirety of our trip, despite the ComfortJet being able to travel much faster than this. This is a nod at the future infrastructure works and eventual plans for the sets. Currently, the trains are operating some domestic intercity routes in the Czech Republic, such as Prague to Ostrava, and internationally, all but one of Prague to Berlin to Hamburg and Kiel trains use the ComfortJet. Their use is expected to expand in December 2025, with Prague to Vienna to Graz to Villach services, with use to Slovakia, Hungary, and even Denmark planned in 2026 and beyond. With this also comes eventual line upgrades for higher speed running, not only domestically in Czechia, but also internationally, notably the Kolombahn between Graz and Klagenfurt in Austria, which will open in December this year, as well as the main Berlin to Hamburg route, which reopens in April 2026, both allowing the 230 km per hour top speed of the ComfortJet to be reached. The sets will then be paired with new Vectrons capable of the same top speed, the 200 km per hour locomotives currently used then being repurposed on Ceske Drahy's existing network, and speaking of which, the line we're on now between Dresden and Berlin is also in the process of being upgraded for 200 km per hour speeds, meaning we do have speed restrictions ahead of our arrival into the Berlin suburbs, as well as a few unscheduled stops. Several of these later, and we're away again. We're now arriving into Berlin Zugkreuz, which means we'll momentarily reach the end of the line at Berlin Hauptbahnhof. Overall, I would say the ComfortJet is a welcome and needed upgrade to the Czech Republic's international routes. Unlike the carriages they're replacing, they have a lot of features and amenities that are to be expected for the important international connections they'll be working on, though some things such as the Wi-Fi not working and a few poor design choices let this train down to a degree. But I would overall argue that using the core Railjet design for the ComfortJet was better than what Siemens did with the new generation sets for ÖBB. For this trip, I booked around 10 days in advance on the Deutsche Bahn website and paid €60.99 for my first class single, which isn't too bad. Better yet, you can get this fare even cheaper, as first class fares start as low as €29.99 a few months in advance, though these are again demand based, so I would book ahead to get the best fares. Anyway, we've now entered the underground tunnels into Berlin Hauptbahnhof's lower level, and we arrive with a small delay of 2 minutes, thanks to generous timetable padding in the engineering works. Now it's over to you. Have you travelled on the brand new ComfortJet yet? What do you think of it, and has this video convinced you to give it a go? Let me know in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and share it to aid the channel's growth, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more content such as this weekly. Right, I'm now off for some sightseeing ahead of continuing my journey later. Thanks so much for coming with me on this trip, and I look forward to bringing you with me on my next one.